it is. All day, every day. I love that. That gets me going. That's just exactly what I need to start these off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am one of your hosts of Welcome Back again to Working It Out Across Generations. I am Justin Hurdle Price.
And I'm Dr. Lynne.
Yep. And this is another episode in which we're going to get into another topic of conflict and conversation that definitely needs to be addressed. I think any and everyone could learn from this and benefit from this, regardless of whatever level of leadership that you're in, whether that's you're in your home, whether that's at work, whether that's in another area or network of your life in which you have to show up for others. We think that this is something that people definitely need to be tuned in for.
Yeah, and we're talking to all of you who probably don't want to tune into this episode because you are that conflict averse. So we are talking to leaders who are conflict averse. And believe me, leadership takes all forms. So yes, we're going to talk a lot about workplace leaders, but also we're leaders in a whole lot of places. Leaders in our homes, leaders in our community. Maybe it's your religious institution, maybe it's your fraternity or sorority, but there are leadership opportunities out there for all of us who are, especially if you're looking to be a leader. But one of the things that comes along with that is conflict. And that's why we're going to be talking about this topic, that and this. I found this really interesting article, and it provides the most important statistics for the workforce. It's in the United States. The study was done in June 2023, so it's very up to date. And it actually says that 76% of employees prefer to avoid conflict when possible. That's a lot of people, but as a conflict resolution strategist and coach, I've known that the majority of us are avoiding conflicts like crazy. And I'm sorry, but come on, y'all can't help but look around in society in general and know that we are not good at conflict. We seem to be great at creating it, but we're really not good at engaging in it, right? And managing it and then seeing it all the way through to the other side where we're resolving it. So I think it's really important because, hey, look, let's face it, when we're being led by someone, we look to them. We look to see how they handle things, what they're modeling for us. And if you're modeling, avoiding, running away from conflict every time it happens, then the rest of us are learning that from you. The other thing is they don't teach it in schools. Like, yes, in college, but let's face it, conflicts don't start happening just when we get to college, and everybody doesn't go to college.
And they're not just one-sided. This is me speaking for all the young troublemakers who will get kicked out for nothing, right? Speaking your heart. And it's not always one-sided. It takes two to tango in every single conflict that comes up in life.
That's right. And I love that you said that because
I had to. My own psyche would not have let that moment pass.
Well, it's because you even use the term troublemakers. What does that even mean? Right. Because people assign that to people who are willing to speak up and cause some conflict, but conflict for the right reason, right? And they get labeled as troublemakers because people are so conflict averse, instead of people who are presenting another way of looking at things, right? Because conflict in its simplest form is conflicting opinions, right? It could be principles, ideas, systems, as we talk a lot about racism in our work. And that's an episode that's coming up, y'all, for sure. But in any case, troublemakers are often assigned that title, troublemakers, right? Because people do not like conflict. So we really need to talk about this today. I really found a lot of the statistics in this study very, very interesting. Right, so 85% of employees are experiencing conflict in the workplace, and that's not a surprise. I'm like, I'm sorry, but what are the other 15% doing? Working from home with nobody there?
Yeah, that number can't. I don't find that number.
100% of us have to be experiencing conflict.
Number,
it's I'm not with that. I'm not with that one. But okay, I'm gonna quote it, but I know it's higher, and you
I
clearly
know
know.
it's higher. There's just no way.
And don't even talk about, right? So employees. So let's just say employees also represent the school system. So you don't have to tell us that there's conflict in schools. We know it, but students are not employees. Are we doing any work on getting the statistics on how many students experience conflict? 100%. I like I said, you could be the most popular, everybody loves you, but you are experiencing conflict in school in some way. So yeah, on the numbers, but I'm gonna go with some of them, right? 77% of human resources employees, professionals, they say, believe that employees could prevent conflicts in the workplace. Yeah, they could if they had the skills to do it, because once again, as I say, most people don't receive any conflict resolution skills until if they go to college. Yes, I spent a great deal of time, and so have you, working in schools and teaching conflict resolution skills, but that's not the norm. That's not mandated in every single school across the country, in the world. So conflicts are happening, and people are not engaging in them productively. And then this statistic talks about prevent them. I mean, yes, there are conflicts that could be prevented, or certainly the ones that blow up. That could definitely be prevented. But conflict doesn't always have to be prevented, because it can present an opportunity for us to do things differently, to make change, to view the world differently. And that's not a bad thing. That's not something that you want to prevent. But I think what they're talking about is the ones that really go left, or sour, because left sounds like a conflict term.
Sour.
Yeah, sour.
Sour. We said sour. Yeah, we said
right,
sour.
the ones that go sour, right? That
Yeah.
go off the rails.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think you can get ahead of certain things, right? You can put things in place to even the odds, right? Or put the odds more in your favor of a certain result coming about, right? However, yeah, that prevent word is really what is grabbing me, because I think that just goes to show, even though this is a study, right? And these are done by people who have the skills, knowledge, and resources to get these numbers, right? I think it just goes to show just how tainted our view as a society of conflict really is.
Yes.
And I completely understand why, because it doesn't take much to look out in the world and see, oh my God, like conflict for that almost seems like an understatement. But we're trying to not simplify all of this, but we're trying to just use the correct, terms and verbiage, because I mean, I've said this before, and I've heard this often in my own living. The brain can't really tell the difference between fact or fiction with like a lot of things, like your own mind, right? So it's important just how much the words that we use, not just what we're saying, but the words we use in those descriptive times, really capture what it is that we're trying to achieve here. Because we are never going to say avoid conflict. We're never going to say it's preventable. We're more about when it comes up, if and when it comes up,
right,
here's how you can respond to it, right? Here's the way in which you can step into it with, even if it's just a little less anxiety, or if not a little less anxiety, just some more confidence, and if not more confidence, some more courage in that doing something different, othering than what you've been programmed, the ways you've been programmed to respond. That's really what it's about. So I love this study. I just had to say that from my own, because I'm very hard on myself, but I'm also very, when things are good, right? So that neutrality, I was talking a lot about that today in the gym, that finding that balance, right? Finding the right words and terms to use, because anything can be turned into an extreme, right? I think that's all the more important. So we're never going to say prevent. We would say stuff like get ahead of, get in front of, or when it comes up, which it will 100% of the time, of if you're a living organism on this planet.
And you live with other people, or you interact in any
You
way with other
have
people.
to deal with conflict or differing opinions, views, whatever it is, right? At a
Yes.
base rate. So the terms and language that you use with yourself, especially, let alone other people, I think that's even more important.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I love that, and I'm gonna hit y'all with some more, right? Because this is why we're doing this topic. 56% of managers report dealing with conflict in their roles. Oh, come on, only 56% of y'all. What are the rest of you doing?
I'm just assuming higher with. I saw the numbers already. I'm just assuming higher with every single statistic.
Let's be honest, people,
Yeah.
right? And we're, like we said, we're talking about the workplace. Let's not even talk about. Let's do some studies on home. Let's do some studies on school. Let's get those numbers
that could
out
get dark.
there.
So we're probably going to stay on the workplace for a bit.
Yes.
You know, we'll get back to that. But that could get dark.
Yes, I mean, come on, and the other 44% of y'all are lying. I'm sorry, because if you're a manager, you're going to be dealing with conflict. I don't care. Been a leader, been a manager, been working. Somebody who worked in corporate, who worked in just in an office environment, and one of the best places that I worked, we were a large team. I mean, there was probably, I think, maybe 17 of us. A little more. There was conflict and we got along great, but of course there was always conflict. But we had the best leaders. Our leaders were really, we were a conflict resolution organization, but my experience is that some of the worst people in conflict are people who work as conflict resolution.
How ironic, right? Like, how ironic.
Professionals. Hey, if I hurt your feelings, you out there, you know me, I don't care, because it's the truth. But our leaders,
I didn't say that. That's all the big dog.
I don't care.
I'm for it. I'm for it. I didn't say it.
Well, I did. And our leaders in the organization that I worked for, they were just top notch at dealing with conflict. And it's really about communication. It's being willing to have those difficult conversations, but also having the skills and being willing to use them. But let me throw a couple more, and then I want to talk to you about just how this plays out for me, what I can remember just growing up, right? 60% of human resource professionals believe that workplace conflict is due to bad management.
No.
I think, again, they were kind. 60% of y'all said that. I think it's probably like 80%.
Yeah, a lot of y'all are hiding.
Come on now.
A lot of y'all are
hiding. Because you do know that it's due to bad management. If 76% of people are conflict averse, right, and avoiding conflicts in the workplace, then you know that, poor management. People don't know how to manage people because they aren't getting the skills. And so I will say part of the blame has to go to a company that doesn't recognize that these skills are important to invest money in.
Absolutely.
Right? Conflicts involving personality differences are the hardest to resolve. I won't say no, but what I will say is they require some serious skills. Yes, because personalities, people are who they are. Now, being who you are could cause conflict with other people. And yes, we have to recognize that we work with other people. We have to recognize that as families, one of the things that we tend to do as parents is we try to treat our kids as if they're the same. And everybody has a different personality. So all the more reason to have better communication, whether it's in the workplace or whether it's in families at home or in whatever the setting is where you are raising children and in your community settings. I'm gonna tell it because I grew up in the church, and Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord.
Yeah, I think this is huge. I think this is very huge. I think the main thing specifically within these personality styles and differences is the communication style and what comes of how people communicate their points that they need to get across. Now, I think that one of the reasons that this can be difficult is just people grow up differently. Like that's just one thing that like we as people will try to assume of others, I guess, just off of like proximity, right? It's like if we're in the same rooms of whatever stature, clearly we've come from the same stuff or we are of the same whatever. And I think that is honestly more dangerous to do outside of the home and outside of, you know, your family and things of that nature. Just because you don't know how people respond to things. You don't know how they were programmed. You don't know their toolbox and what they have access to and what they deem as, you know, their most valuable tools, right? And so communication styles, yeah, I feel like this is a huge thing of like, you know, everyone goes through stuff. Everyone goes through life. Life is going to throw everyone a curveball that we're going to completely whiff and, you know, eat dirt on, right? Like that's just what's going to happen at times, right? But it's the how you respond. It's the how you respond to others in the midst of, and I feel like that's the thing that I've seen be like the most problematic for people of like, I don't even have a problem with what he said or what this person said. I just don't like the way they said it. I don't like how where this whatever came from. And often that's where people will cut the line, draw it. It's done. We're not going past this out of character response. And I would say that's all the more reason to step in. Why is this, you know, how did this go from a calm, cool, collected conversation to, you know, we're arguing or tones are getting louder, right? All of these things. And the reality is, just like we say at the end of these shows, conflict is here to teach you something about yourself.
That's right.
Go find out what that is. I think that in those moments, that's where the gems are. That's where the diamonds are. That's where real understanding is. And I think that's where often a lot of people are afraid to go.
Yeah.
Because I think that in seeing something in someone else, you know, if you're not looking within already, it's probably going to reveal something in yourself.
Yep. Every time. If you're paying attention.
Yeah.
It most certainly is.
And a way to prevent that or even the odds, right? Look within first before you start going out into the world talking about how you should do things and how you should do whatever. Just look within first. Tap in on every level platform first of how you feel, what's coming up for you. You know, step with intentionality for sure.
Yeah, because, you know, one of the things that always makes me laugh is when I do conflict coaching. I've been doing it for a really long time. And every time, or even in the conflict resolution workshops for large groups, people want me to fix the other person. Can you fix my husband? Can you fix my my workmate? Can you?
Or their inability to do a specific thing that we want them to do.
And it's like, no, see,
that's not what it's about.
You know where we start when we start talking about how to resolve conflict and engage in it? We start with you, because we all bring ourselves to it, and there are things that we do that cause conflict, right? And we may not mean to, but sometimes we do, because there are folks out there that just love to start it.
Yeah, shout out one of my boys who recently sent a PlayStation party that he admits and knows full well that he loves to instigate little arguments in the party that go on between the boys. So I can at least say I appreciate you, my friend, who may or may not ever see this, who knows. But I appreciate you for that honesty.
Knowing yourself, right?
Knowing yourself enough to say, no. I'm not going to act like y'all and like I don't know. I know. I like hearing y'all go at it. And I sit back and laugh. That's literally what he said. And all we could do, honestly, was stop arguing and just like marvel at that fact of like, damn it, I don't like it, but I can. That's your truth. I can't not get down with what your truth is.
We all know someone like that. Yeah. I'm a shout out to my aunt. I won't name her name. Yes, I will. Aunt Shirley. We always call. I'm sorry, she's no longer with us. Love her. But we always called her the stuff starter, right? There's always stuff starters in the family. Yep. Shout out to all your stuff starters out there, because you know who you are.
And you know, there's a place for you. We love y'all.
We love y'all.
There's such a place for y'all, but ease up.
Yeah, that's right.
ease up before I do something that's outside of working it out across the generation. And what we stand for over here. We're all people.
Yes,
so, yeah.
yes. But you know, growing up, I did not have a lot of good models around
Damn,
conflict. I did not have, when we talk about leaders,
Yeah.
right? Teachers weren't that great at it. My parents, adults, they really weren't that great at it. And part of it is you've heard me talk about before, just generationally, we weren't in the room a lot as kids. So you know, in eavesdropping, you would hear, and there was always conflict going on with my family. Oh my good gosh, Shamada, always conflict. The phone conversations that I would just have my ear against the wall for, always something. So for me, I didn't see a lot of that. And then as a parent, and I'm gonna ask you how, you know, how this relates, how did I do as a parent, as a leader, right, in my home. But I can remember your brother, I think he was like 9, which means you were 3. I was saying, you know, you all really need to listen more, and I went into this whole little teaching whatever, teaching monologue, probably at a high tone that you know, and patiently waited. And like I said, you were about 3. He might have been 10, so maybe you were 4. He patiently waited, and when I finished, he's like, "Mom, you know something? If you want us to listen better, you might want to try listening better to us." Yeah, that's the kind of kids I raised.
Shout out my big bro, man. Shout out the big dog, right? Laying that foundation for me. Laying it for me. Shout out the biggest dog. Yeah.
That's
thing hilarious.
When you teach your kids how to communicate well, like they hold a mirror up to you, and are you going to be courageous enough to look within? And he was right. He was absolutely right. But doggone it, in the moment,
no.
Wow. Yeah. I actually admired his courage to say it, you know, because he was right on. Like, especially in how I was raising y'all. I mean, in my mom's generation, that would have gotten me popped to say something like that. But for him to recognize that was what was missing, like, here's what you're modeling. You're not listening to us, but you want us to listen to you. Like, I love it. But anyway, I don't know if you have thoughts on it yourself.
I love that.
What we modeled.
Just firstly, shout out again to the big dog, my big bro, laying that foundation for me. I knew it didn't just come from God, so that's beautiful. I love that. I think for me, in my experience, like, yeah, I very much just had the models at home. Like, I feel like a lot of what you'll hear from me in my experience, everyone who's listening and everyone who has ever tuned in and will ever tune in, I feel like, you know, nothing's perfect, right? But I feel like just the way we did things at home was just like, for me, for my style of human being, was perfect. Like, it really was, even in the most unperfect times. We don't run from conflict. It doesn't scare us. And I say that in the sense of, like, past the natural human reaction. Right. It does not scare us. It does not faze us. It does not wobble us, right? We're human. Of course, we're going to feel these initial reactions and feelings to the things that happen, but we're not afraid to go there. We're not afraid to go deep. We're not afraid to ask where a certain thing is coming from, right? And I think that because we started that process so early, it's only helped me understand who I am and start that process even sooner.
Yeah.
Which is a process that people go their entire lives having never truly started. And I mean past knowing how you say certain things after certain prompting events, good or bad. I mean, like, really going to the depths of your experience on this planet and where you were in every realm within that time.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there were times where, you know, I maybe wanted to run away from something. Like I probably wanted to hide, right? School was never my spot, never my place. Especially the places that I went to. These were high pressure environments that were very much just about, to be honest, more of their school's image than the people who came in and out of the buildings. And that very much caused this tug of war that you'll continue to hear me say of, well, who do I trust? Who do I look to for whatever? And I noticed early that almost every teacher I had, except for a couple or one or two in every school that I was in, was conflict averse.
Oh my God, yes.
In the sense of like, we're not even going to try to talk to you. We're just going to give you the consequence.
And then call your mama.
Right. Call your mom, whatever, right? Bring her in and make this whole dramatic thing about it. Because that's another thing that a lot of these principals love to do is the dramatics of like a suspension or whatever, right? Letting the other kids see like what's going on and stuff. I definitely had a few of those principals, but I think just the being so quick to not try and understand me,
right.
The being so quick to not understand the othering side of a story that is an unknown to you. That's what I was exposed to a lot of when I wasn't home. Right. So being home, coming home, like this was like my safe haven. It was like I just being around my family, at least, like going to school and stuff was whack. And for me, it was just like, and I love the people that I've come out with, on the other side from the places I've been. But I was like, guys, like, this is not me. Like, I'd much rather like be with, my board of directors, the people that I consider people that I can really trust with, letting me know what's out there before I reach it. Right. That's what I think of as like, or as a kid, even that I thought of as a teacher, as an educator, as a whatever, right? It's more or something else that I don't, but that trust factor of, can I really take what you're saying, even ballpark, and apply it to my life? It's harder to do with people who are in those positions who are afraid of running into when things are not smooth.
Yeah, and there were very few of them. Shout out to Jeremy. Shout out to my.
We're not saying names. I should have put that in writing. We are not saying names. I'll probably just shoot this episode as an email to each of those teachers so they'll know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. Right. But shout out to those few, because I'm telling you, I will be thinking of those few for when it's my turn to have kids and to think about putting them into this very messed up education system that we all have to at some point play by the rules and play by the cards.
Yeah. So, I want you to share with folks, because we are talking about people, leaders being conflict averse, like what are the problems that it creates when you are conflict averse, because it does create some problems. So how we are, we like to work in threes. We want to do some threes right now.
So the first problem that we came up with that is actually very interesting that I did not realize until, research had gone into this. Money.
Yeah,
money.
We like to talk about money.
And that's a big thing for a lot of people, which I completely understand. But if we're talking in the sense of conflict and being conflict averse, we actually found a statistic that says that about $359 billion annually gets spent into trying to resolve.
Right. Also resolve, or it costs the company that to get rid of.
Right.
Right. Yes. Because people are not managing conflict and running away from it.
Yeah. And I'm all for when we got to cut ties, right? School and education is, as much as that's a business too, right? Like business and that world is a completely different world, and beast of itself, right? But again, like the lack of that understanding, the lack of trying to have those conversations, these are things that money can't buy.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that numbers can't measure. These are hearts and souls that we're trying to tap into. So if we're going to bring in this topic and this part of the topic, for the people that do care about it, just know you're probably losing out on a lot of money.
Yeah.
Next, your relationships, the dynamics, the foundations, the execution, to be completely honest, at times can be strained, specifically in every area of your life, to be completely real. Conflict is going to show up everywhere. That is just a given. It's not just at every time, at any time in your life. It's in every area of your life. So at some point, you will have to deal with this family member who you've had to just kind of keep your mouth shut around all your childhood, but now you're an adult and you have the values to say, I can't be around this or whatever it is, right? Or it's the boss that just will not like promote you or does not see you as fit for someone to elevate, but they're elevating other people like it's left and right, like they're giving out candy. That we see a lot of. And then even just like friendships and things of that nature. The reality is running away from something that is inevitable is its own hard.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're gonna have to choose your hard in life. That's what this whole picking your battles statement literally means. It's that life's already hard. It's about, of the stuff you're presented, what are you gonna choose to, what are you gonna say is worth suffering for, essentially, right? And so the reality is you're going to have to deal with that in every area. So if you start in one, all it takes is to start in one and start small. Then that's a seed planted for every other realm of your life in which you show up as a leader, or in which you show up that these other things in your life are important.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, problems continue. They don't go away. So I'm going to say this all the time. I say this in my personal life. I say this here. I say this in my work life. You can't avoid conflict. You can't prevent conflict, right? The reality is something is going to come up that you don't agree with, which already prompts the feelings and responses that come up of a conflicting matter, right? And so once people accept, and not everyone, but the people that need to accept this right here,
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, a quarter, if not a little more than a quarter of your problems, or the weight that these things provide to your life, absolutely will be relinquished in that moment.
Yeah.
I can say for me, and this is me getting personal, when I lost my dad, that was tough, right? Like I'm thinking it couldn't get any worse. It couldn't get, like, what else could get worse than that? What could beat that, right? Especially the way it happened and things of that nature, the story of it. And so for a long time, right after this is my first experience with grief, I was doing everything to run away from it. Like I was doing everything to run away from it. And I didn't know grief came in stages. So those times that I'm trying to run away, those stages only, amplified my experience of that loss. And so once I had started to kind of accept this slowly, right? Like this grief thing's not going away. I lost my dad. Like that's something that I'm going to have to internally battle and keep alive in a different way, right? And I'm thinking, okay, I can kind of do this, right? And then I lost one of my brothers who passed away about a couple years after, and I think that for me, when I'm thinking, how could this get worse?
Right.
Like that was it, right? And I'm thinking, okay, well, life would give me a break almost because I just lost my pop, right? Like, dude, no, these things don't, like, life is life. It happens, bro. You can't do like anything about the things that are gonna come in your path, as it's your path. It's already written for you. The living piece of it is just your job to execute. But our paths are already laid for us. So the reality is that was already going to happen. These things were already going to happen. I was already going to lose certain relationships. I was already going to strain certain things. I was going to be in a position where I couldn't be a leader for a certain amount of time. But it all built up to even just me being able to be on this episode with y'all, having this conversation. The reality that I didn't run away from it. I had to radically accept some of the wackest facts that you have to, which is like you can't change other people and how they respond to stuff. You can't, if all that is about other people and whatever, right? Life is a whole other ball game. So you really got to leave stuff up for just, faith and your role in the society and just having trust in that. But life is never not going to throw curveballs. Right. You're going to have to learn how to hit them.
And as a leader, there are certain things that you can do, right? But one of the things that leaders tend to do is maybe they'll deal with it, or the team members, y'all are going to have to deal with it. But as a leader, there's conflict happening. It's your job to step in. You may not have to solve it, but you can help people sit down and have the conversation.
Absolutely.
All right, I want to share with you, of course, if you want to be the kind of leader who really wants to stop avoiding conflict, right, and really get in there and do something, you're going to have some techniques for that. So we're going to share 5 transforming techniques. The first one is expand your lens. See conflict as opportunity. I know that that's difficult, but really that is the other side of it. The Chinese character, right, in the language and Mandarin language is the same for conflict as it is for opportunity, right? That's not an accident. But also, if you want to expand your lens, there's an exercise that I do in workshops. I just did it yesterday with a group and they just were phenomenal at it. If you can write down 2 things in nature and 1 machine or a piece of technology that we use, and then complete for each of those 3 things, right? This sentence: conflict is like, so whatever that thing in nature is, those 2 things in nature and whatever the machine or technology. And that helps you to really think about conflict, not so much as this like hands up or thing that is so terrible that you got to run from, but it can give you a very different lens on conflict really being an opportunity for things to be different.
Damn, I like that.
Thank you. I like it too. It's really and people get very creative with it, and it's not stretching it. It's real when you think about it, right?
I like that.
Spend time and money on listening. When I say money, like there are those of us, right here, us too. Right? Go to my website, LynneMorganHurdle.com. There are people who can teach your folks, how to listen better. And in fact, I know that I've seen stats talk about that of all the skills that companies spend the most money on when we're talking about improving management skills, listening is the top one. And now, absolutely, you got to spend money on it because we're all doing more than one thing when we're listening, and we swear that we're listening. I'm guilty of it too. It's terrible to see somebody texting, or in my time growing up.
I'm glad you said it.
Washing the dishes.
This is self-awareness, and in its form right now. This is something we are actively working on. So live at 42 minutes and 23 seconds, this is happening, and I love it. Because it's live and it's going to be out there.
You got proof, right?
And there's proof that we're working on this. Hey,
spend time and money, get better at listening. There's lots of listening skills out there that can really deepen that ability for you.
That's hilarious.
Approach conflict from the start. Oh my goodness. How many of us, I know I get called in when it has blown up.
Yeah, it's just damage control.
And trying to peel away the layers to how did this start? When did this start? Approach it from the start. Teach young people, teach students how to approach it from the start. Teach your children, your nieces, nephews, and everybody else, right? Teach them how to approach it from the start, because conflict is inevitable. Conflict is going to happen. We need to be better at seeing it happen and recognizing, oh, we got to get in there and allow opportunities for conversation and engagement and resolution.
Yeah.
Use chunking. Now, this is a technique. What we tend to do is we dump everything into the pot, right? And the truth is, let's think about it. Since I use a cooking analogy, if you can chop up the potatoes, well, first you put in the water, right? That's one thing. So deal with the water. What does the water need to do, right? Then you put in the potatoes. Then you put in the well, that's the same thing with chunking. What it is all of these things have added up to this explosion. But what is each of those things? Chunk it down, right, to what the issues are for folks, and then chunk it into pieces that can be looked at, talked about, and resolved. So you're not talking about everything at once because it's really difficult to have that conversation. Let's just talk about what has happened yesterday with the team when we tried to do this particular project, right? People weren't listening to one another. That's one of the things I heard you say. So let's talk about that as a part of the conflict itself, rather than we're talking about people weren't listening to each other, people were interrupting, people thought that they were in charge, people didn't want to talk. That's a lie. Those are all true, but that's a lot. Chunk it down. Yep. And then last,
I'm sorry, y'all. I didn't see number 5, so this is a live reaction to number 5. Go ahead. That is...
Invest in a conflict coach. For goodness sake, it is not. These are not common sense skills. Yeah. These are real skills. You really do have to spend some time learning it. The other thing that I loved in this particular article is it said 95% of people who receive conflict resolution training on the job say it improved their work environment. 95%. That's a high number. And the truth is, I have seen so many different work environments be improved by employers being really to invest in their staff, right? With a conflict coach or conflict resolution workshops, more than one, please. Don't just think it's all going, everybody's going to be really good at resolving conflict because you gave them one workshop. That it's really ongoing. There's a reason why it is its own field of study. Conflict resolution is its own field of study in colleges. You can get a degree. I've got mine. I know for real, you can get a degree and you can get a master's in it, right? You can get a doctorate in it because there is a lot to learn. But certainly as a leader, you have to be really good at it because it is something that most of us, right? The larger numbers, we don't like it. If you think about how conflict even manifested itself early on in your life, like what did the people do who raised you, like the environments that you were in? How did people do conflict? Most people did not and do not do conflict well. So needing a coach, there's no shame in that. Invest in a conflict coach and it will do wonders for you, but be prepared. I'm telling you, any good coach worth their salt is going to start with you. They're not going to start with all the people on your team or even the boss or your kids, or your spouse, or your significant other.
They won't even start with the terminology.
You're right.
They're going to start with
you. Yeah. Because we all are here to learn. Yep. As you said, we're here to learn from conflict. And in fact, it's the only thing that's ever really created change in the world is the fact that there is conflict, that people do see things differently. And part of it, and then I'll hand it to you, part of, I think what the problem is that we want to see difference as negative. I've never seen difference as negative. I've always been attracted to and intrigued by it. But we're looking for, how are we similar? How are we the same? How can we all just get along? Right? We've got to look at the place that conflict lies is in the difference, and where those differences can fill in the gaps if we're really willing to work at it and communicate well with each other.
Yeah. And I think just the last thing I'll add to that is we don't expect people to love the process as soon as you start. It's just like anything else that you won't like, or you might be afraid to start. You're not gonna like it in the beginning. Like you're gonna have times where you're really gonna have to be tested on your resolve, right? Your resilience on if you can keep going. Just like with anything else that you really are stepping out of your comfort zone to try to add to your life. And so, if anything, for the people who are just trying to become a little less conflict averse, uh, just start planting the seeds, right? For the people who have already planted the seeds and you're working on nurturing them, keep nurturing them, right? And the reality is we can get to a place where we don't weaponize difference. We can do that. Like that's possible. I can't say that we won't all be different forever and have our right. And that's another thing that I appreciate that you said. I really do lean into difference. I don't run away from it. I if anything, feel like there's something that I can learn from that unknown experience, right? And so often, right, as we hear, how are we similar, right? We hear, oh, you're less than, or you're whatever because you come from this, or you speak like this, or you whatever, right? And so if not loving the process, let's just start it. And at some point we can get to a place where we at least respect the process enough to where it becomes a little more a part of our culture than just spewing out all the hate behind why we're so different.
Yeah, I mean, we can also enter the same situation and see it very differently.
Yeah.
And this whole process of trying to make everybody see the same, be the same, walk the same, talk the same, think the same, that's not what we're here for.
Nope.
We're here to expand the lens. And yes, it is going to cause some conflict. And if we really do invest in taking the time and putting some money in, hey, we can learn the skills enough to be able to engage in that conflict productively, manage it well, be better leaders in all of our sections of society, and teach our young people to be better leaders. In fact, the same study says something about millennials really leading the way in recognizing that conflict resolution skills are important, that people really do need to engage in conflict better. And so, yeah, let's do that. That's why we're here. Now, it gives us a sense of pride to know that we help people to engage more productively in conflict, that we're helping to save relationships, that we're helping to make companies better, families better, society better. And that's what this show is about. So if you're a leader who's conflict averse, I hope you tuned in. Or if you know one and you tuned in, then hey, share this with them.
Sure.
Because we want you to be able to go to our pages and subscribe, like, comment, tell folks, watch the replays, share, because we all need to know how to do this better.
Absolutely.
And don't forget also, we are on television. Like, watch us on your TVs, watch us on your widescreen TVs. Really, we're going to do something about promoting that more, because we really want people to have the experience of the television show and knowing that, because people are like, oh, you got a podcast? No, this is not a podcast. It's a television show. Right? This is over the top TV because it provides all kinds of great things for you. So, having said that, we want to close out. Justin's already said this a few times in the episode, but I'm going to ask you to share again about conflict, or what we believe about conflict.
Yeah, just that conflict is here to teach us something about ourselves. So go out there and just find out what that is.
For you. That's right. All right.
She added the for you. We've never once said for you. That's never once been a part of the line. So that's something she added.
Conflict already.
Right.
We modeling, but
she added the for you. Don't know where that came from. Conflict is here to teach you something about yourself. Go out and find out what that is, period.
Period. There you go. I'm good.
No, you're good. I'm just saying I don't know where that came from.
I'm good.
Much love, y'all.
Yeah. All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in.